I'm going to talk about the 5 most annoying things when it comes to being an Uber driver and Lyft driver. Number 1, little money during the non-peak hours. Now, in case you didn't know, when you drive for Lyft and Uber, you want to drive during the peak hours. So morning and evening commutes and Friday and Saturday nights are usually your best bet. As we all know, even if you don't drive for Lyft and Uber, when a lot of people order in Lyft and Uber, like on a Friday and Saturday night, the surges go up, so you make more money. So when you first start driving, or maybe when you see like advertisements for Lyft and Uber, they sometimes say average 20 to 25 an hour. And if you only drive during peak hours, that's true. And it's awesome. I remember when I used to drive for Lyft and Uber just part-time, I only drove during the peak hours, and I was like, wow, I'm making great money. There would even be sometimes in Boston when it would snow and I'd make close to 60 an hour, which is amazing. But then the second you start driving in the non-peak hours, so basically not the morning or evening commutes and not Friday and Saturday nights, you don't really make that much money at all. Now, this does vary state to state. They passed one proposition here in California where actually Uber and Lyft has to pay a minimum hourly guarantee, which is amazing. However, when I used to drive back in Massachusetts, there was no minimum hourly guarantee. So at least sometimes I drive on a Tuesday at noon or 1 p.m., for example, and I'd make maybe $3 an hour, which is horrible. And that's one of the most frustrating parts about Uber and Lyft is I remember them advertising, oh, you can make this much per hour. Yeah, but there's a massive asterisk on that. We can really only make that much money in the peak hours. If anything, you might even lose money from the depreciation on your car if you're driving around just trying to find a ride, the gas you're spending, the maintenance, so on and so forth. Number 2, having too many people in the car. This is such an annoying issue, especially as a driver, because it's a lose-lose no matter what. And we've probably all seen this. You might even been in the situation where, let's say you order a sedan. A sedan can fit 4 people. This is a normal Uber or Lyft ride. And like you have 5 people, every driver's been there, where 5 people come up and you're like, whoa, too many people in the car. And they're like, oh, just come on, it's only one more person. We can just squeeze in the back. Now, before Uber XL and Lyft XL, which has way more seats, it kind of made sense because I remember being, let's say, with 5 people. Let's say I was going out and you order Uber or Lyft. Sometimes you get a sedan. Sometimes you get a bigger car that can fit more people. And it's a gamble. So for me, when I used to drive for Lyft and Uber before Uber XL and Lyft XL, to me, it made some sense where someone was like, hey, is there any way we can squeeze in the back? Obviously, I would never do it just because of the legal issues. Because to me, I was like, you know what? It is weird that Uber or Lyft doesn't have like a bigger option. Then once they made Uber XL and Lyft XL, I was like, okay, I hate to say it, there is no excuse to order a regular Uber and try to do the, oh, come on, let's just squeeze in the back. Or have one person lie down in the back trying to hide. There was even one time I remember I was driving in Boston and I picked these people up, and Uber XL and Lyft XL have been around for a while. And they tried to squeeze one more person in. And I was like, guys, no, sorry, can't do it. And I'm like, wait, can't you just order an Uber XL or Lyft XL? And they were like, yeah, but it's like $10 more for an Uber XL. And I was like, wait a minute. $10 more divided by 5, that means it's only $2 extra a person. There's a cop literally over there looking at me as they're trying to squeeze in 5 people. I'm sorry, I don't want to get pulled over and get a ticket just because you didn't want to spend $2 extra a person. Unfortunately, you might just have to get an Uber XL. Number 3, having a long driving time, yet very little distance. Now, in case you didn't know, in every city and every state's calculated differently in terms of how much you get paid per mile, how much you get paid per minute. But overall, you make way more money when you're moving than when you're stationary. So if you're, let's say, stuck in traffic, you're not going to make that much at all. It's no one's fault, really. Sometimes it's just kind of the roll of the dice. But I remember in Boston one time, I picked somebody up, there was construction going on, and they were in my car for an hour and a half. And I remember too, I can't remember what it was, but it was like a very high surge rate. So in my mind, I'm like, wait, hour and a half ride, high surge rate, because it was evening commuting hours. I think it was on like 5-ish p.m. That should equal a great fare. However, I think it was only like $30-ish for that, which was ridiculous because that hour and a half, 90% of it was just stuck waiting in traffic, horrible traffic, for a long period of time. And as a driver, sometimes you don't know. Sometimes, especially, let's say if you're driving here in LA where the traffic is really bad, sometimes you get in that bad spot. You pick up somebody who has to go on the highway or has to go in a very trafficy area. You're just not gonna make that much. And it's super frustrating, like I said with the Boston example, where you really only have 2, maybe 3 peak hours you can make a lot of money in, like I was talking about before. And if a lot of those hours are you just spending time stuck in traffic and barely moving and getting barely any distance, you're not gonna make that much at all. Number 4, the Uber pool or Lyft line order. This is just I kind of get it, but at the same time, I kind of don't. This is a very weird one. But in case you don't know, Uber Pool and Lyft Line is you have multiple people in the same car, and you're essentially doing ride sharing. It's very good for the environment, and in addition, as a passenger, you spend less money. However, the one major drawback, when you use that ride sharing, that carpooling service, you don't really know when you're gonna get dropped off. And especially as a driver, people sometimes would get livid with you. I'm talking unbelievably mad. Because let's say I pick somebody up. There's been some times I pick somebody up, I have 3 different people with 3 different rides in the same car, and the person who gets picked up first ends up getting dropped off last. I've even heard stories from drivers saying that one time someone was going to the airport and they got picked up first. They're like, oh, no big deal. I'm gonna spend less money. The driver picked up a couple more people, dropped them off. They kept picking up other people and dropping them off. And the person who was trying to get their flight started being like, okay, are we gonna get to the airport soon? And as a driver, it's like, hey, I hate to say it, if you are in a rush, don't get an Uber Pool. And as you can imagine, even though you did nothing wrong, as the driver, it's your fault. And last, but definitely not least, going through the drive-thru. Now, this may be an unpopular opinion, but being honest, I actually used to prefer driving drunk people more than sober people. And I'm not even joking, especially because I only drove mainly during the peak hours. As you can imagine, driving people to work, nobody's really excited to go to work, especially in the morning. I remember even one ride where I picked a guy up and I said, hey, sir, good morning. How's your day going so far? Like very just casual conversation. And he said, hey, I'm not gonna lie. I know you're trying to be polite. I don't want to be talked to right now. I just had a daughter, work's calling me in. I can't see her. I do not want to be spoken to the entire rest of the ride. And I was like, okay, fair enough, right? And there were a lot of people like that who would just be super lethargic and just annoyed and just like, ugh, I gotta go back to my 9-to-5 job. I prefer drunk people way more. It was way more vibrant, way more exciting, and obviously the money was a lot better. However, the most annoying part was the drive-thru, but it wasn't for reasons that you might expect. Because being honest, usually the drive-thru is only a little bit out of the way. I don't even necessarily mind them, getting food. And even if it smells a little bit, I'll just put the windows down, or I'll get like an air freshener, or I'll just get some like Febreze or whatever. So I actually didn't even mind the smell or having to go on a different route just to get the drive-thru. The most annoying parts was actually 1, the debating, and 2 is them leaving food in the car. So in terms of debating, not always, but a lot of times I drive people and they get in fights, like not super intense fights, but more just, okay, I want to get McDonald's. And the other person like, no, dude, let's just go home. I don't annoy the driver. And then it becomes this clash. And there's been some times where they'll get me into it being like, hey, driver, okay, you pick. Do you want to go to McDonald's or do you want to go home? And then it becomes this thing of people being like, no, Uber driver, don't listen to him. I'm the most sober here. Let's just go home. And then the other guy will start arguing, being like, no, I'm the most sober here. Let's just get McDonald's. It's only like a half a mile away from the house. And it turns into this annoying debate that somehow I now have to mediate of people just arguing. I'm like, all right, I just don't know where to go. Do we go home? Do we get the McDonald's? I don't care either way, being honest, but I just want to know where to go. And the second thing is leaving food in the car. This is the most annoying thing because my second ever ride, a bunch of people got in the car, super nice, super friendly, had been drinking, and they had a pizza box with them. And I saw it in the rearview mirror, didn't think anything of it. The next ride I picked, so my third ever ride, picked somebody up, gets in the car, and they say, oh, looks like you've been eating pizza, huh? And I was like, what do you mean? And I looked in the back, and the people left the pizza box right on the underseat, a bunch of napkins and stuff like that. And I'm like, are you kidding me? It literally takes 2 seconds to remove that trash and just like throw it away. That's the most annoying thing when it comes to going through the drive-thru, is not really going out of your way or even like the smell. It's just the debates that sometimes you have to mediate and you have to like figure out where you're exactly going. And 2 is all the food that's left in the car, because if they leave it, now I have to get out of the vehicle, I have to pull over somewhere, find a place to throw it out, and just have to figure out what to do with the rest of it.